Hey, welcome to another episode of Legion Elite Motorsports. I'm your host, Isaiah, and today I am going to be doing the welding for the O2 bong on the downpipe. So let's dive in and see what is the O2 bong. Okay, so today we are installing a air-fuel ratio gauge, starting with putting it in on the exhaust. We're actually not going to put in the gauge itself, at least not yet. But what is an air-fuel ratio gauge? Well, let's dive into it. So, air-fuel ratio gauge basically does exactly what it sounds like. It tells you your air to fuel ratio, which it has to be a specific number. So, the perfect air-fuel ratio is 14.7 to 1. So you'll see 14.7. Now that's something that's perfect for idle and things of that nature, but because we are forced induction, we have to compensate for the massive amount of air that's being forced into the motor. So that's where this comes in handy. Now, the original computer does decent in its own right, but then again, you have to remember it is 30 plus years old and it can only do so much, especially if, you know, something burns out or if it's acting funny, so on and so forth. So you want to make sure you balance your air-fuel ratio. Good thing it gives you a wider range of numbers, because if you see your car riding over here in this area, 17, around 20 or so, is running too lean. And one of the consequences of running too lean is melting your pistons. I kid you not, melting the pistons. Then if you swing all the way over here to this side, which 8 is extremely rich, there's no reason to run that rich. But if you find yourself running this number consistently, what's going to happen is you're going to wash out your piston rings because you're technically flooding your motor, more or less. But because we are turbocharged, our air-fuel ratio needs to be more enriched with gas, so we have perfect combustion, especially at the various PSI that we run. You guys, anywhere from, you know, stock 8 pounds boost all the way to whatever your engine's capable of doing, depending on how you built it. But, you know, a good air-fuel ratio and a good rule of thumb is that idle, you want to be around 14 even, 13, 8, 14 even, and then full tilt, depending on what type of fuel you're running, you want to be below 12, somewhere around 11.5. That's like a good number. But if you're running really, really high PSI, you might want to be upper 10. So you might want to be like 10.9 area, just to make sure that nothing bad happens. Hopefully not. Boost safely. But yeah, so first things first, I wish it was so easy to just say, hey, I got the gauge, put in the car, boom, that's it. But you actually have to plug in this, which is the O2 sensor that's supplied with this kit, and you have to put the bong on your exhaust. So this is my downpipe. It's 3-inch downpipe. Here's the flex section, and then this is the route to the rest of the exhaust, VBN connection from this point back, which is great. Now, when it pertains to location of the wideband, which is very, very important, because it'll tell you in your manual, you don't want to overheat the sensor. It automatically heats up all by itself. You don't want to overheat the sensor. How you can do that is putting it too close to the back of the turbo. So if you put it too close to the back of the turbo, your life expectancy of your wideband sensor will most likely be less than 30 days, more or less. If you get more, lucky you, but it's going to melt, more or less. So they recommend you put it at least 18 inches from the back of the turbo. So from here, you measure 18 inches and you go ahead and put your bong. Now, you could do 18 inches or better. You know, the further back is just as accurate as long as you're not reading any air escape. So if you have a leaky exhaust or anything like that, or this thing isn't connected properly and is blowing out air and the sensor's way back here, that could cause a faulty reading for the gauge. It reads very accurately, so any sip of air anywhere, it's gonna detect it, and you're gonna get false numbers here, and you don't want that. So, since all of this is one piece, I kept it in this realm. So if we take our measuring tape and we measure out 18 inches or better, all right, let's see. Up here, got about 3. And from there, boom, we would have been good at 18 inches right around here. But we're gonna take it even further and give an additional couple of inches just to ensure that we don't burn out the sensor. These things aren't super cheap, so longevity is a good thing. So this is the spot we're gonna put it, and it comes with the bong. This is the O2 bong, threads in perfectly. And what we're gonna do is we're going to weld this all the way around, and then we're going to drill the hole, because this is still a solid piece of pipe. I didn't drill a hole, and then trying to chase it is just a terrible idea. So to avoid that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna weld this and then drill the hole. Slide in our O2 sensor, and then we're gonna jump onto wiring. Okay, it's done. I ended up using the MIG, and things got hectic. Doesn't look good. But anyway, it's strong, it'll definitely hold. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna use a 5/8 drill bit to drill out the center of that. So when you're drilling it, you wanna make sure that you don't tilt or wobble so you don't destroy the threads inside there. Otherwise, you gotta cut this off and start all over again. So let me put a hole through here. We'll test mount the sensor, and then I'm going to show you how to wire everything up. All right, that is perfect. Did not scratch, not one thread. Perfect. All right, so now we're gonna test fit the sensor, and then I'm gonna show you how to wire it, which is pretty simple. Alrighty, take said sensor, put it in the hole. It already has thread lock on there, and then you just tighten it up. Yep, grab your tool, tighten that up, and it's good to go. But what we're gonna do before we put it in there permanently is we're gonna use some Steel-It to make sure that this doesn't rust. So, let me take this back out. There we go. And we will steel it. Okay. Sorry. It's a little hot up in here. But, yep, so it's steeled and sensor is in. So now, from here on out, I can show you exactly how the wiring goes for the gauge. So, the actual gauge, everything plugs in. Plugs, just like that. And same deal with the plug for the gauge. So let me show you that. Unless you're trying to set it up as a CAN bus type system, this does not apply to you. But for us, who want to use this system purely for tuning, okay, black is ground, okay, it's that simple. And then red is ignition switch power. So when you turn on the car and everything turns on, that's what this wire goes to. And that's it. I kid you not, that is it. Now, this one extra wire, which is solid white, goes for me. So I have a full standalone computer, that being Microtech, and this is the wideband output, so the computer gets a signal of what the wideband is doing also. Now all of this stuff has to be calibrated, but we're not going to go through that as of right now in this episode, but this does give me a reference, and I'm going to be using these 3 wires. Very, very, very simple. So ground is ground. Red is ignition switch on. So that's power as soon as you turn the key in the on position. And then this is signal out. So anything that you want to share your wideband numbers with comes through this white wire. And with that being said, we're going to call it an episode there. I hope you found this knowledgeable, because remember, knowledge is power. And if this is your cup of tea, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. If you aren't already subscribed, give me a thumbs up and hit that bell icon for updated notifications. So as soon as I post, you get notification. But besides that, we are going to call it there, and I will see you guys for the next episode. And until then, remember guys, knowledge is power.